which is an architectural salvage yard run by a guy called John. I've never been to their salvage yard, never been.
Have you ever watched someone on television and thought they had the perfect life? Someone who seems to have it all figured out, traveling around beautiful countryside, finding incredible treasures, and building a successful business doing what they love? Well, today we're going to talk about Drew Pritchard, the star of the popular show Salvage Hunters. And let me tell you, behind that charming smile and those exciting antique finds, there's a story filled with heartbreak, pain, and struggles that most people never knew about. This is the tragic reality of Drew Pritchard's life, and it might just change the way you see him forever. Drew Pritchard became a household name through his television show Salvage Hunters, where he travels across the United Kingdom and beyond, searching for hidden gems and forgotten treasures. He's the kind of person who can walk into a dusty old barn and spot something valuable that everyone else walked right past. His keen eye for antiques and architectural salvage has made him incredibly successful, and his show has been running for years with millions of fans tuning in to watch his adventures. But success on television doesn't always mean happiness in real life, and Drew's journey has been anything but smooth. Let's start from the beginning. Drew Pritchard wasn't born into a family of antique dealers or television stars. He grew up in North Wales, in a small town called Conwy. This beautiful historic town, with its medieval castle and stunning coastal views, became the backdrop for Drew's childhood and eventually his business empire. From a very young age, Drew was fascinated by old things. While other kids his age were playing with the latest toys and video games, Drew was more interested in understanding how things were made, what their history was, and why they mattered. His father was a craftsman who worked with his hands, and this had a huge influence on young Drew. He learned the value of quality workmanship and developed a deep appreciation for items that were built to last. In a world that was increasingly focused on disposable products and quick manufacturing, Drew saw a beauty in the old, the weathered, and forgotten. This wasn't just a hobby for him. It became a passion that would shape his entire life. By the time he was a teenager, Drew was already buying and selling antiques. He would visit car boot sales, estate sales, and auctions, looking for items that he could restore and sell for a profit. He didn't have much money, so every purchase was a risk. But Drew had something that money couldn't buy. He had an instinct, an almost supernatural ability to recognize value where others saw junk. This talent would eventually make him famous, but would also contribute to some of the biggest challenges in his personal life. As Drew got older, his small hobby turned into a legitimate business. He opened his own shop in Conwy, specializing in architectural antiques and salvage. The shop wasn't just a store. It was like a museum filled with incredible finds from all over the country. Massive church doors, Victorian fireplaces, ancient stone carvings, stained glass windows, ornate mirrors, and furniture that had stories spanning centuries. Drew didn't just sell these items. He rescued them. He saved them from being destroyed or forgotten, giving them new life and new homes where they would be appreciated. His reputation grew quickly. Interior designers, architects, collectors, and people who simply loved beautiful old things started coming to his shop from all over the world. Drew's business was thriving, and it seemed like he was living the dream. But here's where the story takes its first heartbreaking turn. Success in business doesn't guarantee success in your personal life, and Drew was about to learn this lesson in the most painful way possible. Drew was married to a woman named Rebecca Pritchard. Rebecca wasn't just his wife. She was also his business partner and co-star on Salvage Hunters. The two of them worked together for years, building the business from the ground up. Rebecca handled a lot of negotiations and research, while Drew focused on finding the items and understanding their historical value. They seemed like the perfect team, both on screen and off. Viewers loved their dynamic, and many people thought they had a relationship to envy. But behind the cameras, things weren't as perfect as they appeared. Marriage is hard work, and when you add the pressures of running a business together, appearing on television, and dealing with the constant demands of public life, it becomes even more challenging. Drew and Rebecca's marriage started to fall apart. The exact details of what went wrong have never been fully disclosed, because both Drew and Rebecca have tried to keep their private lives private. But what we do know is that they divorced, and it was a devastating blow to Drew. Divorce is never easy for anyone. It doesn't matter how successful you are or how much money you have. When a marriage ends, It feels like a part of you has been torn away. Drew had to deal with this heartbreak while still maintaining his business and continuing to film the television show that had made him famous. Imagine going through one of the most painful experiences of your life and still having to show up to work every day with your ex-wife, pretending everything is fine for the cameras. What makes the situation even more complicated is that Drew and Rebecca continue to work together even after their divorce. She still appears on Salvage Hunters, helping with research and valuations. This speaks to both of their professionalism and their commitment to the business they built together. But it couldn't have been easy. Every day was a reminder of what they once had and what they had lost. For Drew, this must have been incredibly painful. But he pushed through it because that's the kind of person he is. He's resilient, determined, and refuses to let personal tragedy destroy what he's worked so hard to build. But the heartbreak didn't stop there. Just when Drew thought things couldn't get any worse, another tragedy struck. This one was public, humiliating, and threatened to destroy not just his reputation, but his entire way of life. Drew was involved in an incident at a pub in North Wales that resulted in him being banned from every pub in the area. Yes, you heard that right. Drew Pritchard was banned from entering pubs across his hometown region. The incident apparently involved an altercation related to a relationship situation. Without going into all the specific details, which have been reported in various ways by different sources, what we know is that Drew's personal life became very public in a way that no one would want. The situation escalated to the point where, for his own safety and prevent further incidents, he was asked to stay away from these establishments. Can you imagine how humiliating and isolating that must have been? Your hometown, the place where you grew up and built your business, suddenly becomes a place where you're not welcome in the local pubs where everyone gathers. For someone like Drew, who had built his entire life and career in Conwy, this was more than just an inconvenience. It was a devastating blow to his sense of belonging and community. Small towns can be wonderful places where everyone knows everyone, but they can also be incredibly difficult when something goes wrong in your personal life. There's no anonymity, no way to escape the gossip and the judgment. Every time Drew walked down the street in his own hometown, he had to face the reality of what had happened and how people perceived him. This incident also brought a lot of negative attention to Drew's television career. Suddenly, tabloids and online gossip sites were writing about him, not for his incredible talent in finding antiques, but for his personal troubles. Social media can be a cruel place, and Drew faced criticism and judgment from people who didn't know him or understand the full situation. It's easy to judge someone from the outside, to read a headline and think you know the whole story. But the reality is always more complex and more human than any headline can capture. Through all of this pain and public scrutiny, Drew had to keep working. The show had to go on. Salvage Hunters had become incredibly popular, airing in multiple countries and building a dedicated fan base. People relied on the show, and there were contracts, commitments, and employees who depended on the business continuing. So Drew did what he had to do. He kept finding antiques, kept filming episodes, and kept showing up even when he was probably going through some of the darkest days of his life. What's truly remarkable about Drew's story is how he handled all of this adversity. He could have given up. He could have walked away from the business, the show, and public life entirely. Many people in his situation would have done exactly that. But Drew didn't. He acknowledged his mistakes, faced the consequences, and worked to move forward. That takes a special kind of courage and strength that not everyone has. The thing about Drew Pritchard is that he's incredibly talented at what he does. His knowledge of antiques, architecture, and history is genuinely impressive. When you watch Salvage Hunters, you're not just watching someone buy and sell old stuff. You're watching an expert who can look at a piece of furniture or an architectural element and tell you its age, where it was made, what style period belongs to, and what makes it valuable. This isn't something you can fake or learn overnight. It takes years of study experience and genuine passion. Drew's shop in Conwy has become a destination for antique lovers from around the world. The warehouse where he stores his finds is like something out of a movie, with towering shelves filled with treasures from different eras and places. Walking through it is like walking through history itself. Every item has a story, and Drew knows most of those stories by heart. This business, this collection of beautiful old things, has been his life's work. And even when his personal life was falling apart, he held on to this. It was probably one of the few things that gave him purpose and kept him going during the darkest times. Another aspect of Drew's tragedy that people don't often talk about is the loneliness that comes with this kind of public failure. When your personal problems become public knowledge, it's hard to know who your real friends are. People treat you differently. Some avoid you because they don't know what to say. Others suddenly want to be your friend because they're curious about the drama. And some people who you thought would stand by you simply disappear. Drew had to navigate all of this while trying to maintain his dignity and continue his work. The pressure of being on television also adds another layer of difficulty to everything. Every episode of Salvage Hunters is watched by thousands of people. Every appearance Drew makes is scrutinized. People form opinions about him based on edited footage and brief moments captured on camera. They don't see the full person, the struggles he's facing, or the efforts he's making to be better. They just see what the show presents, and they judge accordingly. Despite all of these challenges, Drew has shown remarkable resilience. He's continued to do what he loves, finding and preserving beautiful antiques. He's maintained his business and kept his employees working. He's continued to educate viewers about the importance of architectural salvage and the value of preserving our historical heritage. In many ways, his work has become even more important in recent years as we become more aware of sustainability and the environmental impact of constantly producing new things instead of valuing and reusing what already exists. Drew's story is also a reminder that everyone has struggles, even people who seem successful and put together on the outside. We live in a world where we often only see the highlight reels of people's lives. We see the success, the achievements, the smiling photos, but we don't see the pain, the failures, the lonely nights, and the difficult battles people fight behind closed doors. Drew Pritchard looked like he had it all figured out, but he was dealing with heartbreak, public humiliation, and personal challenges that would have broken many people. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of Drew's story is thinking about what could have been if his marriage had worked out, if that incident had never happened. If his personal life had remained private, how different would things be? Would he be happier? Would he be more successful? Would he have avoided years of pain and struggle? These are questions that Drew himself probably thinks about, and they're the kind of thoughts that can haunt a person late at night when they're alone with their regrets. But here's something important to remember. Drew's tragedy doesn't define him. Yes, he went through terrible things. Yes, he made mistakes. Yes, he faced consequences that were harsh and public. But he also showed incredible strength in continuing to work, continuing to pursue his passion, and continuing to contribute something valuable to the world. The antiques he saves and the knowledge he shares matter. The jobs he provides matter. The entertainment and education his show offers matter. Drew Pritchard is a complex human being, just like all of us. He's talented and flawed, successful and struggling, admired and criticized. His story reminds us that life rarely goes according to plan, and that even when things fall apart, we have to find the strength to keep going. It reminds us to be more compassionate and less judgmental, because we never really know what battle someone else is fighting. As Salvage Hunters continues to air new episodes, and Drew continues his work, we should remember the full picture of who he is. He's not just a charismatic antique dealer we see on television. He's a person who has experienced deep pain, significant loss, and public humiliation, yet has somehow found the courage to keep doing what he loves. That's not just admirable. That's genuinely inspiring. The next time you watch an episode of Salvage Hunters and see Drew excitedly discovering an old church pew or negotiating for a Victorian fireplace, remember that behind that enthusiasm is a man who's been through heartbreak and came out the other side. His passion for antiques isn't just a job or a way to make money. It's probably one of the things that saved him during his darkest days, giving him purpose and direction when everything else in his life was falling apart. Drew's tragedy teaches us several important lessons. First, success in one area of life doesn't guarantee success in others. You can be brilliant at your work and still struggle in your relationships. Second, mistakes and failures don't have to be the end of your story. How you respond to adversity matters more than the adversity itself. Third, we should be slower to judge and quicker to understand. Everyone has a story, and that story is usually more complicated and more human than we realize. In the end, Drew Pritchard's story is both heartbreaking and hopeful. It's heartbreaking because of the pain he's experienced and the losses he's endured. But it's hopeful because he's still here, still working, still passionate about what he does, and still contributing something valuable to the world. His resilience in the face of tragedy is something we can all learn from and be inspired by. So the next time you watch Salvage Hunters, maybe you'll see Drew Pritchard a little differently. Maybe you'll appreciate not just his expertise and his eye for antiques, but also his strength as a human being who refused to give up even when life knocked him down repeatedly. His story reminds us that behind every face on television, there's a real person with real struggles, real pain, and real courage. If this video gave you a new perspective on Drew Pritchard and his incredible journey through tragedy and resilience, please hit that like button. Share this video with anyone who loves Salvage Hunters or anyone who needs a reminder that it's possible to keep going even when life gets incredibly hard. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the real stories behind the people you see on television. Ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. So be kind, be compassionate, and be understanding. We'll see you in the next video.